Hello everyone, in this video we are going to be talking about Emma's preferences for bad boys. In this video I'll be focusing on her relationships with Sean Cameron, Peter Stone, and her dalliance with Jay Hogarth. So I will try to keep this video organized, but it's more of a stream of consciousness. I'll say whatever comes to me. First, I'll be giving a general description of some of Emma's personality traits. Then I'll break down why Emma likes these boys and how it fits into her personality and all that good stuff. In the mirror like that, won't you turn around and shake a little something? You're the best they ever had. Loser. You know that you fun like that. You know why you want like that. See it in your eyes, so come on, baby, let's get down like that.
You could use another friend, right?
Friends with benefits.
Could be paradise, running out of time. Won't you live tonight?
So Emma is usually seen as the SJW of the show. She has a bleeding heart, she's very outspoken, opinionated, and she's always worried about doing the right thing. The darker side of her personality, though, is way more interesting. She can be very manipulative because it's how she exerts her control over her circumstances and people. She cares very much about what people think about her. She wants people to see her as a, kind of a good girl Madonna type individual. And lastly, this is something I like. She has a bit of a wild side to her. Nelson's wild side consists of, occasionally sneaking out the house, going to parties, pranking people, stripping, and setting people up, but that's more of a manipulative, schemy type of action, and we'll definitely get into that later on. I say all this because I think one of the reasons she goes for bad boys is because she thinks it's exciting. She needs that hit of adrenaline in her life. I mean, look at Sean. He was a very emotional kid, always losing his temper, and always so passionate. I mean, that was very, very attractive, and especially in season 6 when he came back, we all saw it. The passion everywhere. Even Raggedy Peter added some pizzazz of his own. He had money, he was a smooth talker, not to mention they were playing out their relationship in secret, which can be titillating. Even Jay, though their entanglement was an escape from her mental trauma with the Rick atrocity thing, dealing with him was exciting enough to be a distraction to her, so maybe that's why she was so eager to deal with him. Another reason Emma likes dealing with these bad boys is because she likes the perception of looking like the good girl. When she's paired up with a guy who has a record or who everyone knows ain't shit, by default, she looks way better. Some people might even think that she's trying to make them better, repairing their reputation or fixing their issues. And in that way, it enhances her own perception, her own reputation. And there's a lot of evidence of Emma being very concerned about what other people think of her. It shows in her relationships and how she deals with conflict with others. She feels like she needs to keep up appearances to be perfect, so she can't always come out in the open swinging to hash out issues with people. Here are some examples. So aside from escaping her school shooting trauma, another reason Emma got with Jay was to get back at Alex, a character she's constantly had issues with, and Amy, the dusty bestie to Alex. And she was just kind of a hoe. They constantly make fun of her, and during the play, Emma was just fed up with it. At that time, Alex didn't know about Emma and Jay, so all the while when Alex is saying something really snarky to Emma, I bet Emma was having a grand old time during those insults, knowing what she was doing to Alex's man behind her back. Then, of course, with Amy, it was real direct. Emma shut her up as soon as she saw those bracelets, and she was so ecstatic over the power she had to shut Amy up that she was bragging to Jay about it. Okay, so enough about Jay. Let's get into some reasons as to why she dated Peter. So the personal conflict that she had when she got involved with Peter was Manny. She had resentment towards Manny. I think Emma went with Peter to stick it to Manny. I've always felt she was a little jealous over Manny. She was the hot friend. She got more attention. The moment where Manny comes to Emma for help after her parents kick her out, Emma mentions how Manny has everything going for her.
Manny, it's hard to watch you sometimes. You have everything going for you and you just keep screwing it up pretty spectacularly.
Which to me could signify some jealousy, especially after the whole Peter thing taking the top off thing just happening. It could definitely be a phrase to help cheer a friend up in their time of need, but why can't it both be something out of jealousy too? I mean, the only reason she forgave Manny so quickly was because Manny needed her help. She's going through a crisis. Her parents kicked her out, and Manny needed best friend Emma, not angry Emma. So angry Emma had to take a back seat and not be resolved. And then this angry, resentful side bubbles up and manifests in her dating Peter. This motive makes more sense to me as to why Emma would go ahead and date Peter. And this line of thinking is better supported when Emma responds positively when Peter mentions that she was the better catch over Manny.
You, on the other hand, major catch. Smart, funny, insanely gorgeous.
Listening to all this, Emma was gassed up, hearing that she was the better pick over Manny. I bet it stroked her ego to new heights, and also it showed signs of cracks in the Manny-Emma friendship. In past interviews, Miriam McDonald mentioned her character was going through a bad girl phase, but that didn't make any logical sense to me. A messy jab at a Bessie where you resented her for a long time and then acted on it, yeah, that's more believable.
What'd I do now? Did I borrow too many clothes? Not borrow enough?
Oh, Manny, you're perfect.
Then why do you hate me?
Now let's get into the juicy bit, Emma Nelson's manipulative side. Emma Little Miss Fuckery Nelson is very manipulative, and I didn't realize this until I listened to the Cuckoo Banana Degrassi podcast. I mean, I counted a couple of instances where she was manipulative, but thanks to the podcast, I have a way longer list. But just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna cut it down short. It's no longer a singular instance, but a character trait at this point. The podcast mentions with all the trauma Emma has been through, she uses manipulation in her sexuality as a way to exert control. If you look at Emma's life, the trauma is very evident. In the pilot, she almost gets attacked by a pedo. Then 2 years later, she has a gun in her face. And then a year after, she has an ED. And all throughout that time, she acts out sexually. She manipulates, etc., etc. Let's look at the examples. Number 1, she kisses her rando co-star to mindfuck Jay so she could have control over their friends with benefits relationship. Number 2, Emma lies to Principal Radich about seeing Sean's gang steal from the school, which gets him detention. And number 3, she avoids punishment from her parents when she misses curfew by crying crocodile tears. In her relationship with Sean, her manipulation was super evident. Another way she found control in her relationship with Sean was being his savior. So with Sean, he needed saving from himself. He had a heart of gold, but sometimes he was in his own way. He was his worst enemy. And he was often self-destructive. When we first see these two, Sean is attracted to how outspoken and unapologetic Emma is and how she made him better, helping him out. I mean, listen, if there's something I learned about this Bolivian Spencer-Layla relationship from All American, is that there is power when you are the one doing the saving. When you're the hero, your partner relies on you and they become dependent in a way. And that was kind of the dynamic Sean and Emma had. I mean, he was just so reliant on Emma, you know, making him a better person, saving him from himself, that it turned into a real burden, you know, eventually. But before, I can imagine it must feel nice to have that kind of power, you know, when your partner is always vying for your approval. I mean, that's a huge ego booster. Okay, so we're done with Sean. Let's take a look at Jay and her dalliance with him. When she was hooking up with him, Jay was very manipulative and controlling. And Emma was also very manipulative and controlling. It came out full force, in fact. We all know the only reason she entertained Jay was to escape the Rick trauma. During this arc, she was being very manipulative to her loved ones. But I really wanted to highlight 2 scenes where Emma went straight savage, mind-fucking Jay. So I already mentioned Emma kissing that rando guy. And then in the scene where she looked for Jay after he's hiding out in the alley, she's so dismissive over his feelings. He was like, Alex has something and she thinks I gave it to her, so she's not talking to me. And he's all mopey. She's like, oh, so dismissive. It's like, oh, do you want to just get started? I'm already revved up. Like, geez, Jay was like, get the F out. Like, I can't deal with your cold ass. And she was like, oh, okay. And kind of in shock. But I'm like, what do you think was going to happen? I guess she thought she was going to get her way, but whatever. She just showed how much she could play the game and better than Jay too, which I think garnered his respect and fear and maybe some anger. Lastly, let's talk about her relationship with Peter real quick. The control aspect of their relationship can be seen in Peter chasing after her. Listen, someone chasing after you, that's a power trip too. Really feeds the confidence. She got to decide if she was going to be receptive or not, if she was going to go on a date with him or not. Like, the ball was always in her court. She even outs the relationship against Peter's wishes. She wore the pants in that relationship. She seemed more like a mom to him than his actual girlfriend sometimes, because he was so reckless. She always had to set him straight. And, you know, that kind of dynamic, I'm like, that's a control thing too, right? Also, I just wanted to side note, this is the very last thing, we're done with the video. These guys were simping over Emma. If I understand the word simping well, I mean, the guys were kind of falling all over her, vying for her affection. I mean, I have so many examples, like Jay talking about Emma's virtue. Like, these guys were all about Emma's virtue. They saw her as some Madonna. They always put her on a pedestal. Jay even talked about her virtue. Chris even stood up for her. talking shit to Jay, Sean signing her petition, calling her brilliant, Peter, you know, smooth talking her in the garden. Like, this girl has the sauce. I know what it is, the polyjuice potion, whatever, milkshake, because all these boys fall over themselves for her. I'm like, why? But also respect, because whatever she is doing, I want it. Okay, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Bye-bye.